Okay, today on Tech Tuesday, we're going to go over how to create transaction templates and quick start groups in Transaction Desk Lite and Transaction Desk Pro. So this is within the Instanet system. And just briefly, what quick start groups do is it allows you to create groups of forms for either agents in your office or yourself to pull into certain types of transactions. So if you have a listing transaction, you can compile a list of all the listing forms that you would normally use in that transaction. And you can create a quick start group that pops into either the forms tab, or you can pick that group of forms out of the add forms button without having to select all of the different forms individually. So the first thing that I am going to do is show you how to use a quick start group, and then later I'll explain what a transaction template is and how that kind of differs from a quick start group. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to log into Instanet, and from Northstar, how I get into Instanet is I hover over the Home tab, and then I'm going to click on Instanet Forms. You may have a system message come up when you log into the system. Just close that for a second and reopen it. And that's just a notification that there's maybe been a change in the system to how you do a process in the system, or a change to certain forms that the state association has loaded into the system. All right, so once we get to the home page of Transaction Desk Lite, to create a quick start group in Lite, you're going to click on the Settings tab. And then after you click on the Settings tab, you're going to have a Quick Start Groups option here, and we're just going to click on that. Okay, so like I was saying before, you can create a personal Quick Start group. So this just for you personally, if you're an agent, or if you're a staff person or a broker. You're going to also have a brokerage tab in the system, and you can load templates for the entire office. So let me just go ahead and get rid of these quick. I'm just going to delete those. And I'm going to show you today how to create a brokerage one, and I'll just kind of mention some of the differences between a brokerage and a personal template. So I'm going to click on the brokerage tab first. And then I'm going to go up to the top where it says that I would like to create new quick start group. And I'm going to click the arrow. Quick start group name. This name is not going to appear if you automatically add it to transaction types. The agents won't have to look for that, or you personally, if you're creating one, won't have to look for that. It'll automatically add it to transactions of a certain type. If you are having it so when you click on the Forms tab, none of the forms come up, but you can click on this template. So say you have a short sale forms packet, then it'll show up that way. So there's two different ways that you can look at this, and I'll show you both ways here. So under Quick Start Group Name, I'm going to do a listing packet, just a general listing packet. And sometimes you want to differentiate between in-town listings or out-of-town listings or something like that. So if they need a septic disclosure in there, where it's an in-town listing, they wouldn't. You can distinguish between those and then just attach them to different transaction types. A description is optional, so I don't have to type that in there if I don't want to. I am going to check the box to automatically add this quick start group to new transaction types, because when the agent comes to the forms page, I want them to be able to select this template out of there. So under transaction type, I'm going to say residential listing, and then I'm going to switch it from personal to brokerage. Obviously, if you're creating this for yourself, you would keep it as personal, and that way you're the only one that can access it in the system. Those that have broker permissions in the system, they can also create personal templates in there. So if they want certain forms for themselves, they can do that as well. So I'm going to select brokerage. And then there's an option to allow others to copy this quick start group. If you want them to be able to copy it, you just need to check that box. Okay, my next step is to push the save button. And it's going to bring another drop down up and current forms in quick start group. So we're going to go back up to I would like to and add forms to the quick start group. And then I'm just going to click the blue arrow. And this is going to bring me into all of the different form options in the system. For the most part, you're going to use the North Star MLS forms. You may use the Fannie Mae forms in here. And then there's Minnesota miscellaneous forms and then Minnesota commercial forms. And then we have the folder that you're probably going to use most, the MN residential forms. So I'm going to just go into that folder. And I'm going to use the control key on my keyboard to select multiple forms. So I'll just grab a couple forms. Just a disclaimer that I'm not an agent and I can't advise on any form content or anything like that. So I'm just arbitrarily picking forms out of here. You'll have to check with agency or office or broker to determine which forms you should use for different types of packets. So I'm just going to add a couple here. I'll grab a listing contract. Okay. So I grabbed those forms. I'm also going to go into the North Star MLS folder. And again, I'm holding the control key down when I'm selecting multiple forms in here. Just going to select the change form, the single family residential listing form. And I'm going to save it. Okay, so once I have my forms in here, the next step that I'm going to take is I'm going to put the forms into a good order. So I'm just going to, my agency form is first. I'm going to go down to the listing contract, which is number 9, and I'm going to switch that to 2. And then once I do that, I do need to take the form that says sort order 2, and I need to make that a 9. So I have one of each number. And you can go through, make that a 3, and then I'll go up to 3. And make that a 6. And then once you're done with the order, you can click the save button and it's going to save your packet. I'm going to go in there and show you one more thing. Your packets are available under the brokerage tab now or the personal tab if you created them under the personal tab. If you need to access it again, you're going to click on the name of the packet and it's going to bring it up to the page. And you'll notice that when I changed the order, it did change on here. You can also use the arrows to change the order. But the last thing that I want to show you is if you're an office broker or office staff and you want to make forms required. So you want to make sure that in every transaction that there's an agency form and that the agent can't delete it out of the transaction. All I'm going to do is go down to the section with forms and I'm going to select the forms that I want to be required. So I selected these 3 forms at the top. And I'm going to set selected items as mandatory. Okay. And then I'm going to click the arrow. And as soon as I do that, there's going to be an M that pops up on here. So now the agent is not allowed to delete that out of their transaction. So if they add a transaction type of residential listing, they won't be able to delete these 3 forms out of there. Okay. So now we're going to go into the system and we're going to check it out and take a look at what this looks like for the agents. So I'm just going to go back to the Home tab and I'm going to go to Transactions and I'm going to create a new transaction. So up here, I'm going to create new transaction file and click the arrow and transaction type. I'm just going to say test listing packet because I'm doing that. I'm testing the listing packet. And transaction type, remember we picked residential listing, so I'm going to pick that out of the list. And then I'm just going to keep it at seller, landlord, agent for now. That really doesn't matter for testing this packet. Then I'm going to click the save button. It's going to generate the packet, so it does take just a little bit to do that. And then I have my details of my contacts page. I haven't entered any information under those, but under my forms packet, or sorry, under my forms tab is where I will then see the packet. So I created my listing packet, and now I see the mandatory forms under here, and then also the other forms that I have in here. If you don't check the box to automatically add it to transactions of a certain type, agents in the office or the person that creates this will also have a ability to access a packet through different transaction types. So all they're going to do that's different is they're not going to see the forms right here. They're going to go to I would like to add new forms and click the arrow. And now instead of just having individual forms under here, they're also going to have a section called Quick Start Groups. And if they click the plus sign, that packet is going to be available right up here. And if they select that option and add selected forms, you're now in my transaction going to see duplicate forms because I added the packet twice, but this will kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. I now have the packet that was automatically added, and then down here I have the packet again where I added it the second time. So what you could do with packets that you're not necessarily adding to a certain transaction type, the example that I gave before is a short sale packet. So we're not always going to use those forms in everyday transactions, but then you can grab that information if you need to grab that later. Okay, so I am just quickly going to go through a different type of template. I'm going to go through a transaction template. And what this is a group of contacts, forms, and documents. So if you have documents that you haven't had added to the system as an office, but if you have an agent checklist that you want them to print off, or if you have certain documents that you want to add to every single transaction, or certain forms or with forms text in it, I can do that through a transaction template. So I'm going to click on the templates button at the top, and there isn't a button down at the bottom for templates, so I do have to click it on the top. And then I have personal and brokerage again. I'm going to go through and I'm going to create a brokerage one. Let me just get rid of this one that I have in here. Okay, so I'm going to create a brokerage one, and I'm going to say I would like to create new template. And under template name, I'm going to say listing packet. Again, we'll stick with our original example. And then I do have the option for personal and brokerage in this one as well. I'm going to pick brokerage this time, but you can pick either or. And then I'm going to save it. Okay, so it's going to automatically pop up with the Forms tab, but you notice there's a Contacts tab in front of that, and there's a Documents tab behind it. So I can add all of the above. So Contacts, the agent is automatically going to come into the transaction if someone picks that they're the seller landlord agent, or if they are the buyer tenant agent. So those are automatically going to pop in, but if you have an office admin that you want their contact information to pop up in transactions so that agents can easily email them information, you can add them to the template. So I'm just going to add just a general contact in here. I'm just going to put my company name in here, and then I'll just do John Doe, and then I'm going to put an email address in. Okay. If I want to add them to my contacts in the system, I can just check the box to add to my contacts, but I'm just going to go with this information, and I'm going to save it. Under Forms, I don't want to use a transaction template with forms in it, with a quick start group with the same forms in it. So if I have any additional forms that I want to add to the template because I want to change text in them, I can do so here. So I'm just going to pick the exclusive right to sell contract out of here. And then I'm just going to click on the contract, and I'm going to update some information in here for the template. So I'm actually going to go under line 164 and add a clause. And then click add here. And this little checkbox to add it. And then I'm going to go to file and save. Okay. Once I file and save, I'm going to also go to file and exit. Okay. So now I have an admin in here, say this is an admin, as a contact, so that I can email them, say the listing contract, or if I need to email them any information about the transaction, I can do so here. They'll always pop up in my transaction that I add this template to. I have my listing contract exclusive right to sell with the custom text in it. And then I can also add a document. So I'm going to go to I would like to upload documents. And I am going to just going to add a sample photo into here, but you can add any documents that are in the format shown on here. So PDF documents, Doc and DocX are going to be Word documents. XLS and XLSX are going to be Excel documents. And then I have 5 different photo types that I can add. So I'm just going to go into my pictures on my computer. And I'll just add a photo here, and then I'm going to, once I have everything added, I can just upload it here. And then this photo is also going to show up in all my transactions that I add this template to. So now to use the template, we're going to go back to our transactions tab. And we're going to say, I would like to create new transaction file, and click the arrow. And this is going to show up just a little bit differently on here. So under my transaction information, just going to say test listing packet, and then I'm going to say template after it so I can test the template. I'm going to pick a transaction type. So this transaction type is attached to the quick start group. And then I have a transaction template in here. So down in the information, I would like to use a transaction template or copy information from an existing transaction. I'm going to say import from, use a transaction template, and I only have one in there called the listing packet. So I'm going to use that one. And then they can pick if they're the seller, landlord agent, buyer, tenant agent, neither or both. And that's going to be attached to this transaction type as well. And then I'm going to push the save arrow or save button. So once I do that, the details page, it's not going to update any information in here because I didn't provide any detail information. If I click over to contacts, I'm going to have, as the agent, it's going to give my information here as a seller landlord agent, my office as the seller landlord broker, and then I also have a general contact of John Doe. So if this is my office admin, I have them in contact so that I can email them information if I want to. If I click over to forms, I'm going to have all of the forms that I have with my quick start grid, because remember I had attached that particular transaction type to the quick start group. And then I also above have this listing contract exclusive right to sell that I added to my template and edited. So now if I click on the name of that template and then scroll down to line 262, it's going to have the text that I typed in there already so that I don't have to type that. So if you have any text that you need to put in any of the boxes, you can do that through the template. And then if I go to File and Exit, it's going to bring me back to the Forms menu. And then when I click on Documents, I also have that sample document that I added to the transaction. And just some examples of that again are checklists or things of that nature that would be office forms that you have, but they're not MNAR forms. All right. Well, if you have any questions, please let me know. I can be contacted at GLAR 218-828-4567, or you can always email me at marissa@greaterlakesrealtors.com. I will also post this to our GLAR training site. It's in the members area of our site, so you'll be able to watch the recorded webinar in there, and I'll also attach a written document that goes through the procedures for creating transaction templates and quick start groups. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great day.